It's another effing Monday here at UCY.TV. Today is Monday, May 12th, and you are listening to Boiler Room Radio. I am your host, Jim Funke. We'll be together for the next 60 minutes, me, you, and my best friend, Lance Musser. Lance Musser, come in.
Hey, Jimmy.
What's happening, brother?
Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Hot as hell down there, huh? You finally got some of them close to 90s?
It was 88, 89, somewhere right in there, but
humidity.
I heard more than one person say, after the winter that we've had, I'll take this.
Yeah. That ain't no kidding.
Yeah, so I didn't hear very many people complaining. I even mowed the lawn in it,
nice.
Sweated, still didn't care.
Nice. Sweat off some of that beer you've been drinking out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, over the weekend I sure did. I did, that's for sure.
So when you didn't get dehydrated and pass out around your ankles.
That's for sure.
Do any barbecuing?
We did for Mother's Day yesterday. Smoked, just some baked beans and then fried up some hamburgers.
Nice.
And
smoked baked beans.
Had a bunch of different mothers over, potluck, potato salads, coleslaws.
Your mother?
Well, my mom came over, my mother-in-law.
No, you're a mother.
She is. And then, there was like 10, 12 people there, I guess. It was all right.
Right on. I'm glad you had a good time. I took Mom out on the boat for a little bit yesterday morning for Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. We tried to go out and have a steak dinner last night, but when we got to Colton's, it was still halfway early, I thought, 6:30, wasn't too late, but man, that parking lot was full, boy.
Every single restaurant. It's Valentine's Day.
Right.
There's 2 days of the year that I just do not go to restaurants, and it's Valentine's Day and Mother's Day.
Well, we just wound up, we drove through town trying to find something else open, but with it being Sunday, there was, Back 40 was closed and a couple other places were closed. So we wound up getting a Subway sandwich and coming back home, sitting here and enjoying it, looking out the door at the pretty stuff we got all around us. So it was a good day. Yep. It was a good day.
Yeah, well, good.
Happy Mother's Day, belated to all you mothers that listening to UCY, by the way. Didn't get a chance to air that yesterday, so there you go. All right, man, let's jump into Smoke'em's Market Minute. We finished at all-time highs, yeah? The S&P and the NASDAQ?
Ain't that some crap? If that's not proof of just the manipulation and the amount of control that they have over the markets, it was at 16,704 at one point, which is
30% of the country doesn't have a job, but the market's booming.
Yeah. And the bonds, they took a little bit of a beating today. They were up 4 basis points, which isn't enough to scare anybody out of anything. So,
Manarino made car payment though.
Yeah, he's definitely a shyster. He's got the system figured out, but the nice thing about him is he's trying to tell you
how to do it too.
How to do it too.
Yeah, he's trying to tell every man, this is how I'm making my money. You can too if you got a little bit of scratch in your pocket and you want to try to play the odds. Listen to me and I'll make you money. Oh, yeah, he's making some money.
Yeah, he is a jerk, but if you followed his blog and invested like he did, you'd be up much more money than you're down for right now, that's for sure.
All right. Jump into your stories, brother. You said you got some good ones.
I just picked one tonight. It's that USA watchdog guy.
Greg,
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he has Jim Willie.
Greg Hunter.
Yep, that's him.
I had to give him props.
Yep. And he had Dr. Jim Willie on his, thing. And I see a lot of what he puts down and a lot of it makes sense. Greg Hunter, he's a pretty good interviewer too. He has some pretty decent questions, relevant questions. So when I was looking through different stories today, I read this one and it was just a tad longer than what I normally go through, but it covers like 4 or 5 different arenas that I would have picked from anyway, if you follow me. Mm-hmm. So it kind of lays it out in a good, layman's term. Dr. Jim Willie has been talking about the BRICS nations, which again are the Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, being joined by other nations to take down the dollar. He says that there are now 80 nations in the BRICS alliance who have joined together to end the dollar's reign as the international reserve currency. China could have taken down the U.S. economy anytime it wanted to after it accumulated more than $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. All it had to do was sell them and buy real assets until the U.S. government collapsed and surrendered. The Chinese are playing a much more sophisticated game. Their goal is to take down the dollar and the pound, but to not hurt their customers in Africa, Latin America, Australia, and elsewhere. He thinks a northern euro will emerge, leaving southern Europe and France far behind. Italy's future was hurt when they mistakenly decided to send half of their gold to New York. That gold is now in Asia, along with the bullion from the Netherlands and Germany, which we've talked about many times before.
Italy's problem was joining the euro. It wasn't giving up their gold. Well, yeah, but I digress. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. Dr. Willie agrees with Jim Rickards, who says that the dollar will be devalued up to 80%. This will make imported goods 500% more expensive.
Jesus Christ. It's only worth 3 cents on the open market right now. How much farther can it fall? 80%? What's it going to be worth? Like a 0.7?
Yeah, right.
Dang.
But it's still the reserve currency for the time being. But it will also
only if
enable
you're buying oil.
All right. Let's see here. Dr. Willie agrees that, here we go. The Federal Reserve balance sheet has grown from $800 billion in 2009 to $3.9 trillion today. That's almost a 500% increase in less than 5 years. You would think that would be inflationary, but the federal government lies about employment, economic outlook, and inflation. John Williams at ShadowStat says the inflation rate is really almost 9%. Since GDP is flat, the real economy, after factoring in the inflation, is contracted at 9%. Dr. Willie goes on, the collapse in the velocity of money in the United States, your GDP equals the money supply times the number of times money changes hands. And that's the velocity in the course of a year. And that velocity of money fell from 1.6 in 2009 to 0.7 today. And that's a decline of 56%. So that's a bad thing. In less than 5 years. People outside the United States often use media sources not controlled by the big six U.S. media. These numbers indicate the bottom will fall out of the market sooner rather than later.
Yikes.
He also has zero confidence in Greenspan, Bernanke, or Yellen. If quantitative easing actually worked, why did we replace QE1 with QE2? That's a good question. The figures the Federal Reserve released saying QE was cut $10 billion a month were contradicted by Belgium buying $30 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds a month. So instead of cutting back by 10, they added 20. Nice. But it's a smoke and mirrors.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you didn't hear about that, but, And look at the unemployment figures. America supposedly has an unemployment rate of 6.3%. That's laughable. More than 800,000 people dropped out of the labor force because there was no work. The Labor Department added...
How many did he say?
800,000. The Labor Department added 234,000 jobs out of thin air based upon what it calls the birth-death model. What it means is that normally small businesses are creating jobs and hiring people. We have to assume that these jobs are out there, and these small companies will eventually report their new hires.
Oh, the small companies that are closing because of Obamacare, those companies?
Thank you. Yeah. This farmers into the ground so monopolists can take over manufacturing, retail, and agriculture. So what if there are no jobs and the price of beef, pork, chicken, and eggs is going up? The important thing is that campaign donors can squeeze the life out of you with every utility bill or every trip you make to the grocery store. If someone tells you that the U.S. economy is in a recovery, please tell them that 90% of all new car loans are subprime right now. This and the drastically declining velocity would indicate to me that the American economy is on the verge of collapse.
That means people are out there buying $45,000 cars and they can't even afford a $45,000 car. Sorry, go ahead.
Or that the smart people really just aren't going out and buying new cars willy-nilly because they've got one that is lasting.
True.
Foreign manufacturers will have to aim their product marketing to the BRICS 80 nation after the dollar and the pound collapse. Dr. Willie thinks that the Ukraine will collapse by September. They have no money. They cut their pensions in half. The IMF loaned them money, provided they went to war with the secessionists in the eastern Ukraine. The U.S. stole Ukraine's gold. The Ukraine has decided to take $1 billion of their IMF loan to buy gold to replace what the Federal Reserve stole from them. He also thinks that the sanctions placed first on Iran and now on Russia have been extremely counterproductive. Putin, who is of Jewish descent, and apparently his mother was Jewish, so I don't know how Jewish he is, had therefore been reluctant to aid Iran, but has recently been forced to agree to buy 500,000 barrels of Iranian oil a day. The Turkish banks played a pivotal role in breaking the Iranian sanctions by setting up gold for oil schemes. This is evolving into a drive for a regional currency in the Persian Gulf, which will be gold and possibly oil-backed. He made the reference to the USS Donald Cook, a destroyer. It was in the Black Sea when a MiG-24 flew overhead and shut down the American ship's defense. That's not a good sign if there's a real shooting war in the near future. And I did hear a little bit about that, but we never got into it. Panama has lots of gold. They're talking to several Central and South American countries about setting up a regional currency that is gold, copper, and oil based. Then the last paragraph here. One more. Even Arab billionaires are joining the Chinese. They are sending their 99.95% pure 401 ounce gold bars to Switzerland to be smelted down into the higher grade 99.999 pure gold. These bars will be the new standard in international trade settlement. China started smelting the gold they received from the West down into the kilogram bar size. The Chinese even started a Gulf States initiative with Saudi, and they promised $100 billion investments for Africa at their Beijing conference in 2010. And Obama has countered the Chinese offer with an all the drones you want policy that for some reason is not as popular in Africa and the Middle East. I previously wrote that the devaluation of the dollar will be on the agenda for the Bilderberg conference scheduled for the end of May in Copenhagen, with June 1st as their getaway day. The agenda is set by the Rothschilds and their closest associates and the 30 ruling families. Their agenda is implemented through the Bilderberg Steering Committee. The other Bilderberg participants are invited to discuss matters until an agenda item from the steering committee is agreed upon. Then everyone goes home and carries out the will of the 30 ruling families. If people around the world see authoritative articles in the press calling for devaluation of the dollar and pound, then investors might get spooked or even stampeded into dumping dollars prematurely. Usually hedge fund managers are smart enough to figure that out and cannot take on the Federal Reserve. The U.S. government has 2 million private contractors in the intelligence and security area, and they have 25,000 active duty special ops troops used to make sure that the will of Wall Street is the law of the land. In closing, the Federal Reserve is very powerful, but no organization is stronger than the markets.
I think Salt Lake City Mike's going to call you back. He's going to call back. He's been trying to call in here, and I've been dropping his calls because I usually don't take calls on my hour shows. But he's got a really good question for you. He just typed it in the room, but I'm going to let him call and ask you. So go ahead and shoot back in here, Mike. I had the phones forwarded, and it was still coming through to me, so it should actually, I'll go over here and unforward them just in case. Just in case. Boom. Okay, now call Michael. He's got a good question for you. I'm gonna let him ask it though. Throw you a curveball. We're only a quarter way into the show, so we still got plenty of time. The one story I do want to hit is the one that you tossed me yesterday.
Hell if I know.
Did you read it? Did you read it in the room?
I'm reading it right now.
Yeah.
Because according to the experts, nobody knows how the stock market goes.
We'll let you guys hash it out here live on the air. Good evening, Mike. How are you over there in Portland, Oregon? Or not Portland, but you're close. Hello? Mr. Michael? Heads up. Unmute your phone, Bubba.
Also, another thing is that I do believe when the dollar collapses, gold will definitely jump up a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. We can't hear you, Mike. Call back. Hang up and call back or something. We got a bad connection or something, man. You're not coming through. All right, he dropped. You can call back here in just a second. He said his phone's messed up. We'll get to it though. We'll get to it. He can come back in. But anyway, I mean, if you want to go ahead and try to hammer on that for a minute and just kind of, I mean, I know the whole market manipulation thing and, how do they figure interest rates? And here's the question, everybody. I want to ask Lance how the inflation rate is corrected or is correlated with the stock market valuation. Okay.
Well, I don't think it is because, I mean, the inflation rate is tied to the value of the dollar. Mm-hmm. And the stock market is tied into the value of companies per se. So I don't think there's any correlation between the two. But, I could go into as much as I know of quantum physics and, I think the end result would be the same as, nobody knows.
Too much manipulation. Are you there, Mike?
I mean, they've proved it over and over.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. All right. Welcome to the show, bro.
All right.
You're live on the air.
Well, here's my question for you then. Because my father was a stockbroker, and I have observed this phenomenon.
So was Kevin Blanche. I had no idea that Kevin Blanche played the market.
I didn't play it, but my father didn't play it either. He was a financial advisor, and he had a stockbroker's license.
Right.
But he did not actually attempt to make any money for himself. Now, here's my understanding of this situation is the stock market is driven. The valuation by the assumed value of most of the commodities, gold, silver, everything people use daily, airplanes, fuel.
Right.
That is what the stock market is.
Frozen concentrated orange juice. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yes, and pork bellies, damn it.
All right, go ahead. Keep going. Trading places.
Okay. So, the people that actually control the output of these commodities and the amount of time that they can constrain the output. So how big the warehouse they can build, how much silo. Can you be like Joseph who stores 7 years of grain
Arimathea
and corners the market? This is what I believe is going on again here. So they continually make more money off the profit from the overvalued or the inflated value of all of these commodities that people must use daily.
Mm-hmm.
Now, eventually, this type of bubble, it's a huge bubble. It's going to collapse, as you all say. But there is a correlation. The correlation is that the large corporations and the institutional investors and the hedge fund managers and every central banker that has some kind of huge leverage, like in a mining concern, Rio Tinto, these huge things, they are the ones that control the valuation of the market. And we are at the trickle-down stage. And unfortunately, every one of your investment your retirement funds that are your private, I shouldn't say private, your public retirement funds and in your retirement programs for your public employees.
Mm-hmm.
are victim to these huge institutional players. And they are the ones that inflate the market to their advantage and deflate it. Does that sound familiar? Can you remember the quote from one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, that just says exactly what I said?
I can't quote it for you, but I know that he was right on the money when he said it. Yeah. I mean, I've heard it before.
And first by inflation and then by deflation. Well, this is the exact thing that they are doing at this point, and they have inflated it, and they will indebt everyone because we are required to purchase their debt products in order to survive. And this is a repeated pattern that they have done for a long time. I'm just saying that this is one of those inflated peak market products that they have created to, once again, enslave a greater portion of the entire planet now.
It's all manipulation, man. You know, I mean, they can say some disease came down, right, and slaughter off 2,500 head of cattle or 25,000 head of cattle or however many head of cattle they want to, and just send them off to the rendering house because they still get paid for them, you know, whether it's $1 a pound or $10 a pound. But the price of beef will go sky high, dude, and then they'll rake in the money for months and months and months and months and months. So those 25,000 head of cattle were nothing, you know.
But they had already paid for the cattle in advance, and then they probably had insurance for it.
Exactly.
And so they cannot lose it.
Manipulation.
They own both of those. And the final payout occurs at the register when you buy it.
Exactly. It's all manipulation. Nothing is real.
Welcome to the world of slavery, even though it's imaginary.
Yeah. You're inside a cage. You just can't see the fences.
I can't wait to get Hunt's lamb she's grown for me.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's the only way to get out of it, really, is not to buy it at the store. You can it and prepare it or freeze it and do everything you can.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, well, for my friends, I just wanted to make that point that the stock market is a completely fake construction designed to enrich them at those bankers at the expense of
everybody else
person and every transaction. Okay.
Yep. Thanks for confirming that. Well, we talk about it all the time. And just another voice. Yep. Confirmation.
Preaching to the choir. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you calling in, man. Okay, so back on to it. Are you done with your story, or
I am.
Are you? Okay.
That ended the story.
All right. Well, and then see, that ties into the whole thing. That's what we talk about every week, 3 times a week. Market manipulation. Nothing that you're seeing is real. None of the numbers that you're hearing out of Washington are real. It's all just hooey. It's all hooey. And they don't care about you. And they don't care about what you think. And they don't care about whether or not you got a job. The only thing they care about is whether or not you're going to be a slave and pay some taxes, right? If you don't got a job and you can't pay your taxes, they don't care about that either. They'll just throw your butt in a FEMA cam and come take all your stuff. Take your house, your land, your farm, your equipment, whatever you got, you know. And sometimes the banks come take it even though you already own it. We heard that happening too.
It's happened before.
So just watch your rear ends, people. It's going to get ugly before it gets any better.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to jump over here and give Scott his 2 minutes and 19 seconds really quick. And you don't want to listen to Mandarino today, huh? You want to punch him in the eyeball.
He's annoying. I listened to him earlier.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get the whole thing. In fact, I don't even think it was today's. I clicked on Fridays, which we had already played, but, and we can, don't get me wrong, we can, but, you know, it's a short show tonight too. And I know you have some other stories.
Yeah, okay. All right. Here's Scott.
Hello, this is Scott and this is a Hype Report. Today's report is sponsored by the free book Ramblings of a Madman. Here are the quotes for various items. First, remember Greece? In a harbinger of what is likely to come to the U.S., Greece is poised to formally open debt relief talks with its creditors. Greece would propose measures to alleviate its monumental debt burden, which at 175% of GDP is by far the highest in the EU. Even if Greece's debt burden is made more manageable, the economic woes are far from over because of the 30% plus unemployment and over 40% earning below poverty wage levels. Next, Day of Reckoning. According to Keith Barron, all the countries in the West try to minimize the value of gold, but is held by the world's central banks, including the IMF, as a reserve. While the U.S. encourages Americans to foolishly spend their savings on consumption, China is encouraging their citizens to save in gold and put it in a safe place and to be fiscally prudent. The contrast between East and West indicates the West is in real trouble. Next, U.S. households. The latest data from the Consumer Credit Report shows that total household wages was close to $7.2 trillion, yet total household debt is at $13.1 trillion. In short, U.S. household debt is nearly twice as high as annual wages and salaries. Yikes! Next, postal debt. The U.S. Postal Service currently owes $99.9 billion in benefit payments to its current and retired workers, but does not have the money. One pretty much sees where this is going. Yes, the Congress does not cough out the taxpayer dollars. You will not get your junk or past due notices. Next, summer economics. In a precursor to what we will hear in the U.S. in the near future, the Italians found out that March industrial production fell by 0.5% because summer came early this year. So the only thing worse for centrally planned economies than a cold winter is summer? Next, income inequality. Here are the top 5 U.S. cities with the greatest income inequality. 5, Gainesville, Florida. 4, Jackson, Mississippi. 3, Miami, Florida. 2, New Orleans, Louisiana. 1, Atlanta, Georgia. Washington, D.C. is the 15th, followed by the first Texas city of Beaumont at 16. Next, Chicago teachers. The Chicago's Teachers Union became the latest organization to blast the fascist Common Core takeover of education. It appears that people are waking up to the dangers of central planning initiatives, and it all started with the realities of Obama-wreck. Finally, please prepare now for the escalating economic and social unrest. Good day.
$99.9 billion in unfunded liabilities with the United States Postal Service. $99.9 billion with a B dollars. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Yeah, okay. We Lance and I hashed this out earlier in our Skype box, and he said it's their fault because they've been undercharging for delivering mail for a long, long time, and I agree. They have. It's because well worth more than 40 cents to deliver
keep
something.
Saying no, and why do they keep saying no?
Well, okay, but here's the thing too. The reason that they have not jumped their prices enormously like they have, is because they have always turned a profit on their books. They keep good books, and they've always turned a profit on their books. The bad thing for the U.S. Postal Service is that they're part of the United States federal government, and other parts of the United States federal government steal money from them nonstop. And a lot of it's the Pentagon.
Like Social Security.
And Social, yeah, okay, but yeah, right. I mean, they just shovel it off into other holes, right? That's exactly what's happening to the Postal Service. And they are going to have to close down like they did back in the 80s. I remember they closed a bunch of little town, little shops, little town post offices and made them go somewhere else. It's ridiculous, man. Why don't you people at the Pentagon, just go get money from the Fed. Stop stealing it from other organizations and trying to covert opt the money, whatever the hell you're doing with it. All you're doing is building shit to kill other people, so who cares, right? I mean, stop it. It's ridiculous. This country is a joke. I'm almost getting tired of talking about it too, brother. I can't even, I'm serious, dude. I mean, it sounds kind of iffy, funny, but I'm almost getting tired of talking about it. I think I might I'll take a break. I don't know.
Something will happen and make it exciting.
Something's
going to happen to make it exciting. Maybe not an exciting that we want, but it'll be exciting.
Keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to try to too, man. And don't let me get past 50. Okay. I'm going to go into these a couple other things, bullet points I want to hit, and I just don't want to ramble on about them. I want to save the last few minutes of the show for the story that you sent me about the car.
Oh, no. I got something else even above that. If, I can have the last 5. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't going to talk about that. It was, cheerful, upbeat.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The car wash one. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that. It was something else, but feel free.
Well, no. If you want it, that's cool. I'll give it to you. I'll just go ahead and ramble on about this other shit here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Heads up, everybody. I don't know if anybody knows about this or not, but I just caught word of it today. It's actually been going on for the last 3 days, I think. There's a congressional, they're calling it a discussion because it's behind closed doors. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's supposed to know about it. Some reporters dropped some word to some other reporters, and it got out to the alternative media, and now it hadn't hit the hot wire, but it's getting out there. A couple people know about it. They're having this congressional discussion about a super EMP and how it's going to hit this country by the end of 15. Something's going to happen by the end of 2015, and they're all getting ready for it. Over the next few days, you guys are going to see a lot more B-52s and B-2 stealth bombers flying over the United States because they're doing a dragnet for nuclear security because Russia did it. So now we got to do it. I wonder if we're going to fly over off of their coast like they did off of ours. I bet we don't because they're afraid to get shot out of the sky. But anyway, they're going to do a dragnet across the United States, so you'll see a lot of B-52s flying over, a lot of stealth bombers flying over. I think there's going to be 35 of them in all, and I think they're fully armed. So, heads up on that one.
I flew under the F-22s today. I had to drop a lawnmower off to get fixed, so I had to drive past Langley.
Nice. And
there was a pair of F-22s flying out there, and they were doing touch and goes on the runway. And I was driving slow, and I was watching them, and those things are so badass. I mean, the military-industrial complex, bad, boo. But I'll tell you what, those planes are badass.
Let me tell you something, though.
They take off and turn at 45 degrees. The whole body just flips up on its side, and the thing just swoops right around. And you're like, dang, that's bad.
That badass, what is it, $170 billion aircraft or whatever the hell it cost to build one of them?
$122 billion, I think.
$122 billion, okay. Is already obsolete. The Russians can spot it at 250 nautical miles and shoot it out of the air. So it's already obsolete. And they haven't even been flying them that long. I think the stealth, the F-22 Raptor, just came out on the production or off the production line, off of the whatever they call it, experimental aircraft line 5 years ago, right? Already. Maybe
that's why obsolete. That U-2 was up there trying to jam radar or something, playing with it, see if it can mess with Russian radar too.
Okay. We told that story. I told that story about the U-2 stealth. Or whatever they call it, the U-2 spy plane, whatever they call it, the Black Beauty or whatever.
Yeah.
Turns out that might have been a fake story. Because that's the same time that those Russian Bears were flying off the coast at 60,000 feet.
So that was just a plant by the mainstream media.
So that people would know that the Russians were right off the coast of California with their aircraft.
And they're the ones that made our radar go haywire?
Right.
Sweet. Nice. Nice.
So that just goes to show you people just how close those planes were because they dropped LA regional. That's a pretty big tower. That affected 3 states.
It threw it for a loop, didn't it?
Yeah. For 2 hours. They couldn't get it back online for 2 hours. There were shutdowns clear across the country. I'm not sure how many Bears were out there. I know of at least 2. I
had heard 2.
Yeah. So.
They was going to fly in pairs.
Just a little test. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're testing our systems. You know, they had the sub sitting in the Gulf of Mexico for 90 days without being seen or heard. And Putin was smiling when he told the public, when he came out and told the press, he had this little smirk on his face. Yeah, submarine, Gulf of Mexico, ha ha. They're testing us. I'm telling you, they're testing us and getting ready to drop the hammer on this country.
I mean, everybody in the world disapproves of what we're doing except certain other governments. But the people as a whole, how could you support anybody that does the barbaric things that we do to people?
Yeah, that's a damn good question. That's a damn good question.
I mean, how can you respect a nation that does that, and that they see the real story, not one painted by our mainstream media that doesn't show us the deaths that our drones do and everything else? How can you respect that?
Good question, Lance. So back to the super EMP thing. The congressional people are saying that it's either going to be a super EMP weapon, like we were talking about on a show earlier, a few weeks ago, something that would be exploded at 300 miles above the atmosphere or above the ground.
The Outland Goings Department of Homeland Security lady said that would happen. She said that would happen.
Yeah. Or it could be an X-10 or so from the sun. But it would, if it was just going to affect this country, it probably wouldn't be an X-flare, because an X-flare would probably affect the whole sun-facing disk of the Earth. Right. It wouldn't just be the U.S., it'd be the U.S. and Canada and Mexico and parts of South America and whatever else. You know what I mean? So evidently they're thinking it's going to be a bomb. Right. Because they're talking about this is nationwide, right? So that got me to thinking too, that it's going to be a bomb exploded 300 miles in the atmosphere. First of all, I don't know if an intercontinental ballistic missile would be able to achieve that trajectory and stay that altitude. I think they have to come back down to Earth. I don't know. I don't know about that one. But I do know this. Last fall, the United States launched for the first time in, I think, 15 years, a super heavy rocket for some unknown reason.
With a payload identical to the one that went to Mars, wasn't it?
And it was undisclosed.
Yeah, we did a story on that.
Yeah, we did. So, I'm just trying to connect dots. I'm not connecting any dots at this very moment, but I've got these things playing through my head, and I'm just trying to connect the dots. And I really hate with a capital H, having to burn my gray matter, trying to put these dots together, when I could be thinking about so many other things that really matter to me. Just to let you people in the administration know, you're pissing me off, and you're just about to get on my last nerve. Ooh, that was very well timed, God. Thank you very much. Nice timing.
That was nice thunder.
Yes, I do. I have a very, very strong storm system.
That was cool.
Coming into the area right now. So
that was cool.
If I blink off before the end of the show, which we only got 20 minutes left, but that's why, because it's a Hummer of a storm system. Okay. Anyway, that's enough of that super EMP shit. 10 more minutes for me to ramble.
So do the car wash story.
No, I got one more I want to talk about really quick, because we've been talking about this for a couple days now.
Okay. We can save that till Wednesday anyway.
Yeah, I want to devote a little more time to it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I've done some more research.
Yep. Good. I'd actually want to know what you have to talk about. Okay. 2 quick things. Well, actually, they're not going to be quick. They're going to be about 5 minutes apiece. Do a little Uncle Jimmy rant. What's happening in Ukraine right now? I want to remind everybody of something, just so that you can rewind your playbooks a little bit and just check out what's happening. And I'm not just talking about the whole kerfluffle with the Russian army versus Ukrainian army and all the crap you're hearing out of Washington. I'm talking about what the IMF's doing. I'm talking strictly financial. So that's the route I want you to take when you start digging down this hole. Because if you look at the financial stuff that's happening, what's happening in Ukraine has already happened in Spain, Greece, Cyprus, France, and Italy. It's the exact same playbook, and we've watched it happen over the last 4 years. Go look it up. It never works. All it does is make rich people richer, and it gives them control of people and resources. Now, if the IMF gets their way, it's going to be very, very ugly, because that will be the kickoff for World War III. Because then they're going to move a bunch of NATO troops in there and keep poking Putin. Probably happen by the end of this year, because I think they're going to get their way. Crimea, I don't know how many of you know this, but this has been happening for a couple of weeks now. The Ukraine, since Crimea decided to have their referendum and go to the Russian Federation, the Ukraine has started building a sandbag dam across the one major river that provides them with about 85% of their fresh drinking water. They are going to try to cut off Crimea's fresh drinking water. Now, granted, they're on the ocean, but they don't have a desalination plant. That's criminal in my eyes. I don't know about yours, Lance, but that's criminal in my eyes to try to cut off their only source of fresh drinking water for the majority of that country, that republic, that independent sovereign chunk of ground, simply because they don't want to be under your thumb anymore. Sounds like tyranny.
That tactic's gone way back. You just cut off the supply chain.
Oh yeah,
and eventually they're going to starve and have no ammo.
Isn't that a warlike move though?
Humanitarian, yeah, that's almost a humanitarian violation.
Makes you wonder why the U.S. didn't say anything about that.
Because they're coordinating it. Could be.
Because
they have a part in it.
Yeah, along with the 700 troops. Not troops. I shouldn't say troops. I should say Blackwater Associates. Actually, they call themselves Academy now. There are 700 representatives of Academy on the ground in Ukraine with weapons and grenades and whatever else they use to stir up trouble. Now, the last major thing that I remember hearing about Blackwater / Academy / XI, whatever you want to call them, is when they were running loose in Iraq, I think through Fallujah, just shooting innocent people as they were cruising down the road in their Humvees. Yeah? Don't you remember seeing that footage on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Running cars off the road, causing accidents, running people over. I mean, straight running people over. Shooting, ran willy-nilly off into the housing projects. Just causing
They were immune
chaos.
from prosecution.
Right. And they were bloodthirsty criminals, murderers, probably people in this country that would be in jail, prison.
Yeah.
Probably undesirables that had been kicked out of the military.
Oh, yeah.
Gang members.
Well, you have to have a propensity for violence for them to even hire you in the first place to go over there.
True. And be, willing to do anything for money at the cost of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't want to spend no more on that. But anyway, I just want you people to see exactly what's happening, because this is not the last country that it's going to happen in. I can promise you that. They're trying to get it kicked off in Syria full blow, but I don't think they're going to do that. They're having the elections over the next couple of days, I think, and Assad's a shoo-in from what I hear. So it's going to be very hard for the government to kick him out now, since he's going to get reelected, and they can't say that he's a tyrant and the people hate him, right? Because, they just reelected him again. And there's going to be like 70 reporters down there, or 80 reporters down there from all over the planet. They're going to make sure that this thing goes off without a hitch.
Well,
this whole election deal, because they won't allow the international people to come in. The U.S. is going, no, we can't have international monitors. It's too violent. Woo! Might hurt somebody. So the reporters are like, screw it, we'll watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all you'll hear over here is about how it was rigged, You know, people were forced to vote this way. They weren't fair elections. They need fair elections like our Al Gore versus George Bush election. That was fair.
Yeah, we got to get Diebold in there, man.
Fairness.
We got to get Diebold. No, we can't have Diebold in there because there's nobody from Congress running for the presidency down in Syria.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway. Excuse me. Moving on. I want to touch base on the Nigerian girls for just a few minutes because this has been really laughable to me. Anybody that thinks that this is anything but a false flag and completely bogus, and the only reason that they're doing this is to get our troops into Central Africa so that we can help kill people and take over that middle of that country.
They must have found oil.
Oil, gold, uranium, you name it, man. They got all kinds of goodies down there. Okay.
It's something.
Right. So here we go. These pictures that are being floated around on the interweb and wherever else they're being floated around. They are fake. Not all of them. I don't know about all of them. I know that a bunch of them are fake. The girls that are in these photographs are from Guinea. They're not even from Nigeria.
Right.
They came out and said that those photos were taken. I mean, they're on the social media tweeting things out about these photos. They're saying that those pictures are of us. They were taken in Guinea, not even in Nigeria. They were taken back in 2011. They're not even recent photographs. So there's some teenage girls now that are on Twitter saying, "Wah wah, you failed again, CIA, whoever the hell tried to set it up. You people got to do your jobs better. Come on, we're paying you how much money? You guys are raping this country for how much money? You can't even get a goddamn photograph right? Please. Pull your heads out of your asses, man. You know, you go down into a African country and throw around a bunch of $100 bills and think you got a story wrapped up? Come on. This is 2014, Jack. There's people all over the planet that can get information out in 30 seconds.
Yep.
We got you cold. Again. It's not even the first time, you morons. That's what I'm saying. This is getting to be old hat, man. I'm already losing my muster for this. This is ridiculous having to talk about this shit every week. It's a waste of my time to even have to pay any attention to this crap. It shouldn't be happening in the first place. It's none of our business what's going on in Ukraine. It's none of our business what's going on in Syria. It's none of our business what's going on in Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, you name it. Why don't you try paying attention to what's going on inside this border for about a half a day? Will you? Instead of trying to control the whole goddamn planet and get yourself reelected. That's the only two things you jackasses care about up there on Capitol Hill. Everything else comes in a distant third. How's that Bunkerville LLC running for you, Harry Reid? Have you driven it into the ground yet? Because with all your kerfluffle up on Capitol Hill, you running your gob 24/7 up there, I guarantee you have destroyed your son's career in politics. Because he will be laughed off the stage if he ever tries to get into a debate. You know anything about this Nigerian thing? I mean, the memes on Facebook with
the meme Michelle Obama memes are hilarious.
Michael Obama.
Yeah, they're hilarious, but no, I sad as it sounds, it hasn't been an important enough story for me to research. I don't know how bad that sounds, but no, there's many other areas that I'm focusing on. That isn't one of them right now.
If there are any Nigerian girls listening to this show that need some salvation and want to come to the United States, I offer right now, sight unseen, no questions asked, we will trade our administration for all of you that want to come to the U.S. And we'll even put you up in the White House because I guarantee you can do a hell of a lot better job than the people that are up there right now.
That's right.
So I offer that out of the goodness of my heart. We will trade our administration for all the Nigerian girls that need an escape and want a new life.
Funny.
That's just, I mean, it's just foul. Anyway, I stepped over your 10 minutes. Go with your story.
Oh, no, you're fine. So, ending on a positive note, I read Origin of Expressions today that my buddy sent me, Jim.
Very nice.
So there's a couple of them in here that we all kind of say we probably don't know the origin of it. So I kind of wanted to end the show on a cheerful, funny note and read some of these so everybody can get an idea where they came from.
Right on, man.
Everyone's probably heard this one. Early aircraft throttles had a ball on the end of it. In order to go full throttle, the pilot had to push the throttle all the way forward to the wall, hence balls to the walls for going very fast.
Nice.
During World War II, U.S. airplanes were armed, with belts of bullets which they could shoot during dogfights and on strafing runs. These belts were folded into the wing compartments that fed their machine gun. These belts measured 27 feet and contained hundreds of rounds of bullets.
Give the whole 9 yards!
There you go. Oftentimes, the pilots would return from their missions and say, I gave them the whole 9 yards, meaning they used up all their ammunition. In George Washington's days, there were no cameras. One image was either sculpted or painted. Some paintings of George Washington showed him standing behind a desk with one arm behind his back, while others showed both legs and both arms. Prices charged by painters were not based on how many people were to be painted, but how many limbs were to be painted. Arms and legs are limbs, therefore painting them.
Paint was expensive back then.
Well, and often, therefore painting them would cost the buyers more. Hence the expression, okay, but it'll cost you an arm and a leg. Because an artist knows that hands and arms are more difficult to paint. As incredible as it sounds, men and women took baths only twice a year, May and October. Women kept their hair covered while men shaved their heads because of lice and bugs. And they wore wigs. Wealthy men could afford good wigs made from wool. Put the wig in the shell and bake it for 30 minutes. The heat would make the wig big and fluffy, hence the term big wig. Today we often use the term, here comes the big wig, because someone appears to be more powerful and wealthy. In the late 1700s, many houses consisted of a large room with only one chair. Commonly a long wide board folded down from the wall that was used for dining. The head of the household always sat in the chair while everyone else ate sitting on the floor. Occasionally a guest, who was usually a man, would be invited to sit in the chair during a meal. To sit in the chair that meant you were important and in charge. They called the one sitting in the chair the chairman. Today we use that, the chairman or the chairman of the board.
Nice.
Common entertainment included playing cards. However, there was a tax levied when purchasing playing cards, but only applicable to the ace of spades. To avoid paying the tax, people would purchase 51 cards instead. Yet, since most games require 52 cards, these people were thought to be stupid or dumb because they weren't playing with a full deck. Early politicians required feedback from the public to determine what the people considered important. Since there were no telephones, TVs, or radios, the politicians sent their assistants to local taverns, pubs, and bars. They were told to go sip some ale and listen to people's conversations and political concerns. Many assistants were dispatched at different times. You go sip here, you go sip there. The word go sip was eventually combined when referred to a local opinion, and thus we have the term gossip.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Woo, that's a big gust of wind coming.
Sure is. At local taverns, pubs, and bars, people drank from pint and quart-sized containers. A barmaid's job was to keep an eye on customers and keep the drinks coming. She had to pay close attention and remember who was drinking in pints and who was drinking in quarts. Hence the phrase, minding your P's and Q's.
Very nice.
One more This is a good one. Bet you didn't know this. In the heyday of sailing ships, all warships and many freighters carried iron cannons. Those cannons fired iron cannonballs. It was necessary to keep a good supply near the cannon. However, to prevent them from rolling around the deck, the best storage method devised was a square-based pyramid with one ball on top, resting on 4, resting on 9, which rested on 16. Thus, a supply of 30 cannonballs could be stacked in a small area right next to the cannon.
Right.
There was only one problem: how to prevent the bottom layer from sliding and rolling from under the others. The solution was a metal plate called a monkey with 16 round indentions. However, if this plate were made of iron, the iron balls would quickly rust to it. The solution to the rusting problem was to make brass monkeys. Few land lovers realize that brass contracts much more and much faster than iron when chilled. Consequently, when the temperature dropped too far, the brass indentions would shrink so much that the iron cannonballs would come right off the monkey. Thus, it was quite literally cold enough to freeze the balls off of a brass monkey.
I love it, dude. That was great. That was a perfect to end on, man.
Yeah.
I thought balls off a brass monkey.
Yeah, I thought so.
That's good. Yeah, our history, man. I mean, I tell you, when you start studying history, you'll either love it or you'll hate it. One or the other. And it's fascinating to me. I love looking back and seeing what happened back in the heydays and, just watching how humanity's gone up and gone down and gone up and gone down and gone up.
Well, superstitions are another good one. Knocking over salt. Even to this day, when I knock over salt, I pick it up and I throw it over my left shoulder to blind the devil that's running up on me to give me bad luck.
Nice. Nice.
Still to this day, I cannot spill salt and not do it because just in case.
Yeah. And look, it's worked for you so far, right? Every time you've got him right in the eyes every time. So the one time you forget is, he's going to tap you.
That's right.
All right, man. Last 30 seconds. So.
Old saying that I used to say, one of the things we can do to help the poor is not become one of them.
Absolutely.
It's an old saying that I've always said. Live, love, and laugh.
Live, love, and laugh. Love and peace, everybody. We'll see you in a couple days. Hang on, Turboville's replays next, and then Primer Time or Prepper Chicks, one of the two, and then Anti-Media Radio with Nick Burnaby. So stay tuned, folks. UCY.tv. Thanks, Lance. Peace.